This is not a group of police officers taking a tour on a TTC bus. What we're looking at is a service who tries to look good on the outside, but they are rotten to the core.
They signed up to serve and protect because they wanted to help people. But there are women in police forces across this country who say that dream was shattered when they were harassed and abused by their male colleagues. Tonight, 5 female officers, past and present, speak up to tell their stories and ask, when it is widely accepted harassment of policewomen is an ongoing problem, why is it so hard for them to get justice?
He ripped my shirt off me.
I was repeatedly ridiculed for having a miscarriage.
I refused to send him naked pictures of myself.
I was assaulted in 2014.
I was subjected to systemic violence and abuse.
According to Vera McKenzie, who left policing more than 2 decades ago, nothing has changed.
It's heartbreaking that 25 years later, we're still having the same conversation.
They were all proud to wear a uniform and worked at police forces in Toronto, Sarnia, Waterloo, and West Vancouver. But when they filed complaints about sexist, harassing, and at times violent behavior, they say they were ostracized.
It is career suicide. It is.
When you stand up to a man officer, they close the ranks together.
The women say they had little or no help from their male-dominated unions.
The first person that harassed me while I was still in recruit training became the union president.
What about the male officers? Do they have the union support?
Certainly. I mean, in my case, he was the president of the union.
The case of a Toronto police constable who alleged she was harassed by fellow officers is now before the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario. Heather McWilliams says the harassment at 23 Division forced her to take medical stress leave and created a poisoned work environment for women.
On parade, they have to watch their supervisors laugh and make jokes about masturbation and how they could pleasure women.
Heather McWilliams says she was humiliated for more than 6 years. Her allegations have not been proven at the tribunal. McWilliams filed her application in 2014. It names Angelo Costa, a sergeant at 23 Division, as well as the Toronto Police Services Board. Today she had this message for her fellow female colleagues.
To the female officers out there that are still suffering in these conditions at work within the Toronto Police Service and who have not come forward and they are fearful, we're still going to fight for you. Even though you're unable to, we still know you're out there and we want to fight for you.
Today, a lawyer for the Toronto Police Services Board challenged the idea that there is systemic harassment happening, saying this case involves a small group of officers at one division.
Abuse and harassment of female officers has been well documented in the RCMP and the Canadian military, which is currently embroiled in its own reckoning. Toronto police officer Heather McWilliams won a landmark human rights complaint last year. The tribunal found she endured years of harassment from her male colleagues.
Vulnerable, degrading, and dehumanizing of females.
Effie Zarabi is still fighting for justice at great personal toll. She's on stress leave and has risked her financial security by filing an ongoing human rights complaint.
You've brought forward a complaint, and there are 5 different law firms representing the Toronto police officers, the male officers, and they don't have to pay a dime for lawyers.
They don't pay a dime. They get full support.
What kind of legal support did you get to bring that complaint forward?
I had to sell my home. I lost my pension in 2018.
Zarabi says she owes $130,000 in legal fees and court costs. She provided City News with sexualized and racist texts she says were from male colleagues. They are too graphic for City News to air.
Why am I spending hundreds and thousands of dollars out of pocket when I have all this evidence? You know, we have videos, we have text messages.
Toronto has Canada's largest police force. In the 3 years from 2018 to 2020, there have been 12 complaints. Jamie believes the low number doesn't reflect reality. Another brutal cross-examination here in court today as the woman who is accusing 3 Toronto police officers of assaulting her in a hotel room after a night of partying faced their defense lawyer yet again. Now he is saying that she made up the entire story of being gang to save her reputation, and that she wasn't nearly as drunk or incapacitated as she seemed. Now, or as she claims. Now, in a trial where virtually nothing seems out of bounds, there was a pivotal moment. The judge stopped the defense lawyer and said he was going too far and using myths. The complainant walked into court today knowing what was to come because she faced it yesterday as well. Today, defense lawyer Harry Black focused again on relentlessly trying to destroy her credibility, zeroing in on what he called inconsistencies between her testimony and prior statements to police. For example, he pointed out she went into far more detail on the stand when she described being nauseous on the cab ride home from the hotel than she did when she first told police shortly after the alleged assault, implying she made it up. She responded, "I was talking about 3 people raping me. I don't think being nauseous in the cab was on the top of my mind." Earlier this week, the woman testified in graphic detail that Leslie Niznik, Josh Cabero, and Samir Kara had sex with her in a hotel room at the Weston Harbor Castle after a night of partying, that she did not consent, couldn't give consent, as she drifted in and out of consciousness. Niznik's lawyer presented her with a different version, saying she made the whole gang accusation up, that she was actually a willing participant, but became angry when she heard them talking about getting a hooker after having with her, and then she regretted what she had done. Black, you were in a state of panic because you were reflecting on the choices you made that night. Complainant, I disagree. Black, you were thinking, what if it gets out that I actually propositioned a police officer in the brass rail to have with me in front of other people? Complainant, that's not what happened. Black, and then you had with 3 officers. What if that gets out? Complainant, I did not have consensual. The defense went further. You started developing a narrative that would make you blameless for anything that happened in that room. She responded, I was not responsible for anything that happened in that room. After 2 days of cross-examination that saw the woman being accused of flirting, focused on what she wore, suggested she not only wanted groups, but that she initiated it, with few objections from the Crown, the judge drew a line and shut the defense down when he tried to suggest a victim wouldn't send a flirtatious text to a man a day after being raped. The judge, I do not accept your argument that this is relevant to if she was assaulted. That is where you are walking into rape myths and how women are supposed to behave.
Back on November 7th, 2024, I spoke to you about 3 of our officers being arrested and charged for a number of serious offenses. At that time, I shared that the investigation was ongoing. And as a result of the continued investigation by our professional standards team, in consultation with the IIU, Manitoba Justice, and federal justice officials, yesterday one of those 3 officers has been rearrested for additional criminal offenses. Constable Elston Bostock has been charged with a number of new criminal offenses and was detained in custody at the Winnipeg Remand Center. Additionally, Constable Vernon Stratinsky, a 15-year member, was arrested yesterday and charged with a number of criminal offenses.
Constable Bostock attended numerous Winnipeg Police Service firearms training days, during which he continuously stole ammunition. Constable Bostock in turn provided the stolen ammunition to a friend on 3 separate occasions. While on duty, Constable Bostock attended a call for service regarding a sudden death in the 500 block of Osborne Street, at which time he obtained an intimate photo of a deceased female who was only partially clothed. Constable Bostock then distributed this photo electronically to another party.
They went from the squad cars to the strip clubs, straight to the hotels. Didn't get enough. They went for the hookers. Still didn't get enough. They started going for bodies without souls in them. Guys, if that wasn't enough, they're back in the change room. It gets crazy. We're gonna jump into this Toronto police detective Jason Condo. He's facing some crazy allegations. We're gonna breeze through them. We're not gonna read the whole article. In this first one, He's accused of touching a partner inappropriately while they're showering at the police station. In the case involving one officer, the documents said Condo allegedly turned out the lights on several occasions while that officer was in a washroom stall, and other times would throw items over the wall. In one instance, using a cell phone, Condo took a photograph of that officer who was seated on the toilet, according to the documents. Yeah, it gets even stranger. Another officer hit with used underwear in the face. Guys, the short of the long, he threw wet underwear. God knows how they're wet, what they're wet with, but he threw them at his partner's face. He also tried to rip his partner's towel off of him while coming out of the shower at the police station. And he's still at it. A third officer touched inappropriately while getting dressed. This time, Condo sends his partner a photo of his partner's stuff stuffed up his butt. Guys, what's going on at this place? No wonder they don't want us filming in this place. No wonder they've got no filming signs in police stations. Are you guys hearing this? And yes, you guessed right. There's a fourth. Fourth officer reported that Condo was making comments about the officer's butt. He then touched the officer inappropriately. And then he did it again a year later to the same officer. And I know we've already passed level 100 on the strange scale, but it gets stranger. On one occasion, while the officer was seated on the toilet in the washroom, you put your cell phone over the stall as if you were taking a photograph of him. According to the documents, Condo is also accused of putting a shaped water bottle in that officer's bag, which was later found by his son at home. Imagine your kid going into a bag, pulling out something the shape of a and just starts playing with it. You come around the corner and see that. Figure out it was put in there by your partner. Guys, this is what tax dollars are going to. I hope you're okay with it. I know I'm not. But let's keep moving. Let's meet James Bragg.
A Toronto cop has been accused of chasing a female colleague and watching at work. He allegedly piggybacked a female colleague during a night out for drinks with coworkers before kicking her in the butt and slapping her butt, and then chasing after her and making grabbing motions with his hands until another colleague yelled at him to stop. He also allegedly watched porn on his cell phone while sitting in a squad car with another officer, and then showed a picture of a naked woman to a coworker and asked them if they liked it, and he also made repeated sexual comments towards another colleague despite being told to stop.
So I joined policing in 2004 with the RCMP, and I was quite young, about 21, 22 years old. I was posted to Coquitlam, British Columbia at the time, and within a year and a half, I was then wondering what it would be like to be closer to my family and still be able to be a police officer. So I'd inquired with Toronto Police Service to work for them and if that was a possibility. And within about a month's time, they had hired me basically, and I had moved across the country to be closer with my family, but also still be doing the job that I was trained for and I was enjoying at the time out west in Coquitlam.
Can you talk to me about some of your experiences that sort of opened your eyes to being in what the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal has found was a poisoned work environment? Could you share a little bit of that?
So my experience with the Human Rights Tribunal was a very difficult one. It was very lengthy. When I first was looking into what choices I had to stand up for myself from the abuse that had occurred in my workplace, I wanted the results to be a change within my workplace. And so the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal did offer remedy. And also, on their webpage, it said that most cases will be heard within a year's time. And so I didn't want this to be a long, drawn-out process. And I wanted to have remedy so that change could occur within the service instead of it just being a monetary settlement.
And this might be painful, and you can stop me at any time, but could you share some of what you experienced during your years at the police?
Sure, no problem. So I joined Toronto Police Service in October 2005. And when I joined, there was only a few officers at the time on the shift that were senior to me that were making comments to myself and other female officers on the shift. And they were mostly the senior officers. The junior male officers were not involved in this behavior, but they were sort of, the senior officers were setting the tone to which they felt that they wouldn't be held accountable to their behavior. And so some of the comments early on, I remember specifically one of the senior officers, I had to work with him one evening, and he had advised me that there was female officers who were in the change room who were their allies and would be telling them what we looked like. And so they were looking for reactions to see how much female officers would tolerate their comments. And some female officers responded with comments back to deflect the comments being made to them. They would also tell them to get lost, but in a more aggressive way. Or like me, I would remain quiet. If I could, I would walk away, or I would find something else to talk about to change the subject. I tried to focus on the good officers that I did work with and the work that I was doing. I found it necessary since that was my duty, and I did not want anything to affect the work that I was doing. To serve and protect others is what I was there for. So early on, there was this environment that was toxic, but it wasn't everyone at first, or it wasn't so... Sorry, I just find it difficult because I can picture the people and the situations even back to all the way in 2005 from when they were occurring. And there's been so many incidences since then that they just fill my mind, and I have difficulty speaking about one when there's so many that start flooding my mind with all of the traumatic experiences collectively.
Right. It's hard to process all of that. And you're talking about some ways in which you and your other female colleagues reacted to that as well. What happened, Heather, when you tried to speak out? Or did you feel there was anyone that you could go to for support?
No, I didn't feel there was anyone that I could go to. I mean, a few of the officers had stated to me that they had observed that I had to manage a lot of this behavior, and I could see that they were noticing it, but they were still not having the courage to be able to stand up to it for me. And so the officers that I thought that I would be able to go to, even the female officers, when they were being harassed or had confided in me that they had been, they also did not have the ability or courage to be able to manage it as well. So I felt that the supervisors should be the ones that would be able to deal with it, but then they were the ones also being victimized by it. And the male officers, after I had switched shifts, after about 5 years on, were more aggressive with their behavior. They had more power and control. And so it just kept escalating, the severity of it and the fear within me to be able to trust anyone. Some of the comments that would be made about female officers that came forward with complaints at the station would be that the female officer was crazy and basically sending the message not to believe her. And our supervisor, our superintendent, would get rid of her and she would no longer be a problem for them any longer.
The usual suspects are here. He's got a video camera recording. gray hoodie. We're going to need to stop and investigate them. They tried to actually get in her vehicle during the middle of her traffic stop.
He's the Canada Copwatch.